Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show. I'm Tasha Sims,
And I'm Marc Caron.
and you're listening to Conscious Living Radio. We are still recording on Facebook, obviously, and then the show will air Wednesdays, 5 to 6. Did I get that wrong? It's been so
Yes,
long. Oh my
it's
God.
6 to 7 on
6 to 7, but you
Wednesdays.
just told me there is no time, and I just was
Well, the
going
time is
6
now,
to 7. I've
right?
only been doing it for 12 years.
Well, I know.
6
Well,
to
this is the first time we've ever done it on a Sunday at 5 o'clock in the
That's right. I'm not
afternoon,
in
right?
work mode at all.
Likewise.
Yep.
So,
Wednesday, 6 to 7, 100.5 FM in Vancouver, also available as a podcast after the fact at consciouslivingradio.org. Also on YouTube and Conscious Living Network.
Facebook page. Yeah.
Facebook page.
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
I got them all. So welcome to the show.
Just been moving with the times, taking our things to a different level just because it's that time. We're typically a radio show, and now we're just becoming more and more mainstream.
Fluid.
Yeah, social media and things like that, because we've got some great stuff to share with the world, Tasha.
And today especially, we are talking with Dan Horner. He's a former naval officer, healer. He's a conference host. He's produced tons of workshops and events focused on spirituality, healing, alternative medicine, self-growth. So the information we're going to talk about today is all about healing, especially physical ailments. And we'll also talk about his upcoming conference, the Mystical Healing Experience. So Dan himself has suffered from a litany of diseases: fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, IBS, eczema, thyroid problem, low back problem, chemical sensitivity, insomnia, anxiety, depression, food intolerance. This is a partial list. And he was overweight. So definitely not in a healthy state, but through research, trial and error, he healed himself from all of those ailments, lost 40 pounds, and now he's helping other people work with whatever they're suffering from, using a scientific and a spiritual framework. So I'm really hoping we can get some specifics on that. And if you're struggling out there, hopefully you'll find a little bit of relief. And as I said, we're also going to talk about the Mystical Healing event, which is coming up April 23rd and 24th, where you get to participate as you listen to some incredible speakers with your own personal healing. So welcome to the show, Dan.
Thanks so much, Tasha. I'm really grateful to be here. And just to clarify, that 40 pounds I lost, I was not overweight. I was about 160 pounds, and my body was not digesting food, and I got down to about 120 pounds.
Oh.
And, yeah, everyone in my family thought I was going to die. People that looked at me thought I was going to die. If you've ever seen the cover of the book Patient Heal Thyself, which is the guy that started the raw food supplement line, it's
David Wolf. No,
it's God, what is his name? But he's got that raw food supplements line. It's in every health food store. God, I can't remember the name of it. But he wrote a book. It's called Patient Heal Thyself, and he has a picture of him really well. And then he has a picture where he looks like he came out of like a concentration camp. I mean, he's so skinny.
Yeah.
I looked like that. I never had any pictures of myself because I was so ashamed of the way I looked.
Right. Well, that's what I wanted to see if you could dive into your before and after, like a snapshot of paint the picture of what was going on for you before. So you were super skinny, not overweight. Is that right?
No, I was an athlete before I got sick, and I wasn't digesting food for a long time. And I got down to, I was using my grandmother was about 90 years old or 89, and she had an extra walker. And I had to borrow her walker when I was 33 years old.
Wow.
Walk. My legs got so skinny, and the inflammation in my joints was so great. I had gout at the time, and I just kept losing weight, and no one knew what the problem was.
What did you try before you kind of started to go down a road where you went, okay, you obviously did mainstream medicine.
Absolutely. Right? Yeah. We spent thousands on mainstream medicine, and, mainstream medicine, the main thing that they would tell me is, let's take a test, and a blood test or some other kind of test, or a stool test or some kind of test. And we take a test, and they come back and say, well, you're negative for this thing, diabetes. You're negative for this thing. You're negative for this thing. You're negative for this thing. that'll be $500, you know?
Yeah.
And so it was negative, 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 but not any answers for why I had the fibromyalgia, why I had the chronic fatigue, why I was losing the weight. No one could answer those things until I got into alternative medicine, alternative health.
And so what happened? Before we dive into, I know, you know, where I'm going to aim my arrow is there a commonality at the root cause of adult onset illness? Do you think there's a commonality there?
Yeah, for sure.
That we can talk about? Yeah.
Absolutely. And I will say, you know, being aware that the audience here is a spiritual audience, like I love the fact that I can speak totally freely about this.
You can.
So I want to say that for spiritual people especially, and almost for most people, an illness is, people call it a wake-up call, which I would agree with, but it's more than a wake-up call. There's this misconception out there in the spiritual community, and this misconception is that you've attracted your disease. You have law of attraction yourself into illness because of your negative thoughts. Okay. And that's not entirely untrue, but I would say it's not the full picture. And I would say what the full picture is, because that vibration, that pattern, that thought pattern, that pattern within your nervous system in your body has been there a long time. And when it comes up in adulthood, what it means is not that you have attracted this illness, but that you're ready to heal it. It's coming up for expression and almost like a purging out of your system. So what it's a sign of, in my opinion, what it's a sign of is your spiritual growth. So when I get a new illness, I don't say to myself, oh my God, I'm such a jerk. I had all these negative thoughts. And, you know, I say, here's my opportunity to grow spiritually to the next level. This is what it's showing me is my next thing to grow through.
I love that. You're basically using whatever's happening to you as an opportunity to expand no matter what, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because there's so much beating of the self up that is not helpful. It's unhealthy. It's basically not true when you take that whole framework into account. And it's a misconception, I think, in the spiritual world that even people will judge each other in the spiritual world and say, oh, you know, that's because the person has negative thoughts. Of course, they're going to have these illnesses. And then, of course, we all get sick and die of something, right? One day, Louise Hay died, Yogananda died, Jesus died. We're all going to die of something. So it's like, oh, did all these people attract their thing and die? No, it's just part of the spiritual progress.
Yeah, it's never, that whole thing never attracted me. What do you remember, Mark, that there's some little story about somebody doing this thing to their friend going, well, why did you attract that? They're sick or whatever. And they're going, well, why did you attract that? And the person smacks them across the face and they go, why'd you hit me? Well, why did you attract that?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So what did you do? Because you know what, here's the thing. I agree with you that it's an opportunity. At the same time, I really want to support people to not give up, because with people with chronic illness or any kind of recurring pattern that they're struggling with, it's like they've tried everything. Most people don't just sit back and let it happen. They try. And so what would you say to someone who's struggling with a physical illness, who has, done all the supplements and changed their food and cut out the sugar and the dairy, and they become vegan and they've meditating, yada, 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 and they're still sick? And so the ability to sustain enthusiasm for a cure is difficult.
Amen. So what I would say to that person is, awesome job. You are now on the path, because all that stuff is important. All of that stuff you mentioned, the supplements, cleaning up the diet and the healing the gut and doing the meditation, is everybody's first step. And it's super important. And, when you've done all that stuff, when you've done the detox, when you've done the heavy metal cleanse, and you've gotten rid of the Candida and you've healed the gut, and you started doing yoga and meditation and acupuncture and all these things, and you still have the illness, it's those all those things were there to prepare you for doing the work of what I would call becoming whole, right? Healing, the root word of healing comes from the word being whole. And wherever you don't feel whole, that's your next place to work. I love this book. I brought a ton of books with me because I've read these and they've all been educational. Dr. Kelly Turner, she talks about radical remission of cancer in the book. And she says there's 9 factors that cause that are in common when people have radical remission of cancer. Only 2 of them are diet and supplements. Only 2 of the 9. The rest are psycho-emotional, spiritual work. So the fact that they've done the 2 is awesome, and they're on the path to start doing healing.
Tell us what the other ones are. Do you mind? If you got it right there.
Oh God. Let's see.
Just go on your
I don't
index.
have them memorized, but they are all essentially, so it's radically changing your diet, taking control of your health, and taking responsibility and not responsibility. People always get the wrong tone of that. Like it gets back into that thing we just talked about, which is you're blaming yourself. But you cannot give responsibility to the medical system or to your practitioner that's an alternative practitioner. There's a part of you that has to say, I'm gonna solve this, and I'm gonna be my own guinea pig of wellness. Following your intuition is number 3, that's definitely spiritual. Using herbs and supplements, that's what we talked about. Releasing suppressed emotions, increasing positive emotions, embracing social support, that's number 7. Deepening your spiritual connection, and having strong reasons for living.
Cool.
So brilliant.
Yeah, I totally get that. Yeah.
And she's only talking about cancer. So
but it's applicable to anything. Honestly,
Exactly.
I listen to that list and I go, okay, check. Oh, asking for support. Nope, don't do that one. Like you can literally pinpoint the place that you may be being called to step into. I think that's an awesome list. Thank you.
Right. And so for my, my viewpoint of having healed all these illnesses, and then, 11 years ago, 12 years ago now, I started doing these conferences for healing, and I've witnessed so much healing at the conferences, at the workshops. I've hosted 250 healing events I've hosted in Tucson over the past 12 years. And going to other people's retreats and workshops, Joe Dispenza, I've been to his retreats. I've been to Donnie Epstein's. I've been to, Neil Donald Walsh and Deepak Chopra's retreats. It's like I've been to as many of these things. I'm a true believer. And after witnessing all this healing, it has come down to, this simple aspect of it is that it's so ridiculous that it's going to sound like that can't be right. But it's that something happened to the person and they didn't get what they needed at the time in the situation. And that, we can call those traumas. And that word is, somewhat overused these days, but it's also good because everyone's understanding that that's where stuff comes from. But adverse childhood experiences, they're pointing to the same things that Louise Hay pointed to. Louise Hay wrote this incredible book called Heal Your Body, which was actually her first book.
It's an oldie.
And she goes through and talks about all the underlying emotional patterns for illnesses. And before I had all those illnesses, when I was still working on Wall Street, I had lower back pain and I had eczema then. And I was having this eczema in my hands, and I started doing transformational work when I was on Wall Street, mainly because I wanted to get better at doing my job, right? I wanted to make more money and have more clients and all that fun stuff. And this transformational work is what led me out of Wall Street being like, oh, this is sapping my soul. But I healed through these transformational programs. I healed that eczema, and I tried steroid creams and other creams, and I went to the doctor and all that stuff, and it didn't work. And a shift in my mindset, a shift in my emotional patterns healed my eczema. I read this book by Dr. John Sarno called Healing Back Pain. And he said, your back pain is caused by repressed emotions, repressed anger, actually, repressed rage, he calls it. And I was like, and that healed my back pain. So I knew that these things
Not
were
that,
possible.
you mean working on your rage, healed it, not reading
No,
about it.
what's funny is in the book, he says just acknowledging it will heal your back pain, because
Really?
now your body will not have this outlet, because you called out your body to say, I know that you're essentially full of crap, right? Like, you're full of crap. This back pain is full of crap. It's just my repressed rage. Just admitting that, he says in the book, will heal it. He goes into later in the book, though, that it will manifest as something else. So you do have to deal with it eventually, right?
Well, you have to deal with the mistaken belief that the rage is resting on, because it's not rage for no reason. Somewhere in the rage, if you keep going, if you keep entering it in a friendly manner, not making it bad or wrong, but if you keep entering it, you will come out the other side to a part of you that is so hurt and so vulnerable and so not broken, but wounded, that
Yes.
needs you. So without that added piece, I just don't buy it. Disappears. Like, I don't believe in
it disappears,
magic
but it
that way.
becomes something else.
Well,
If you-
so there it is. Unless you
Yeah.
get to the root cause and
100%.
bring love and compassion to it, as opposed to thinking it's bad, wrong, or you must get rid of it or pull it out like some weed. It's not. It's a hurt part of you, and it needs attention, loving attention, not another smackdown like it might have gotten, right? And so,
That's-
yeah, rage is just like an arrow going, come here, hey, come here, or your back
Right.
is going, come here,
it's,
go in
it's
here.
It's that wound saying, to me, it's that wound
Mhm.
saying, I need attention.
That's
I need
right.
attention.
Yeah,
I need attention. You're still not listening to me. I
Correct.
still need attention. And it
Yeah.
gets to the point where it's rage.
right.
And
Right.
that wound,
So
It's-
why would that go away just by naming it?
right, it doesn't, it just moves. Right.
Right. Yeah,
It just moves.
that's right.
It just transforms into something else.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
with, that, what you just talked about, that it's really just this deep wound, this place of you that was hurt. That's exactly what my healing method does, the quantum field healing, is we go to that place where that wound was. And at that time, something was happening and you were not getting the thing that you needed to heal or to be okay with that situation.
Yeah.
And it fractures the soul. It creates a pattern in the mind body. There's a guy named Dr. Robert Scare, who was this brilliant neurologist, and he wrote a book called The Body Bears the Burden. And he's straight mainstream scientist, and he researcher and neurologist, and he figured out that that most pain was being caused by repressed traumas and emotions. His definition of trauma is that, and I'm not precisely saying it, but it's basically that something happened in that person's life. Yes, of course, right, where it was stressful, but it's overwhelming stress. But the other factor of it is that the person could not do anything about it.
Helpless.
Right. So in other words, if you're a child and you're
Yeah.
getting beaten and to fight back, if you can fight back, then it doesn't become a trauma. So as adults, we go into our, like, if we don't feel like we can fight back, we go into our boss's office and they're screaming at us, and we just have to stand there because we're so afraid of losing our job that we can't tell the boss off. Then that will be traumatic. But if you're like, well, screw you, boss, I've got 4 other jobs that I could do that are, I don't need to take your crap, then it's a stressful thing, but it's not it won't become a trauma. It won't become traumatic because you could do something about it. You're like, I'm leaving this stressful situation.
And you could use that moment with your boss to illuminate where you're wounded and be okay with that. Go, oh my God, there's the wound. And
Right.
here's me right now talking adult to this boss. And then inside, here's this kid who's freaking out. So maybe you don't have to leave that job at all, right?
Yeah, Tasha, you just explained how I healed my thyroid issue. So what happens is you have this fear, right? Like the person, I had to go through the process of telling people, setting boundaries verbally and telling people things that were uncomfortable for me. And there's always the fear of loss. There's always a fear behind it. So you go into your boss's office and you think, I can't lose this job. But one day you get so fed up and you take your power back and you go, screw you, I'm taking my shit and I'm out of here, right? And you have just empowered yourself, and that healed my thyroid issue, not because I had a boss, but because I had so many, we're doing these events open to the public, and I had to start setting boundaries with people. I had to start setting boundaries with speakers, frankly, and setting boundaries with customers. And it was one of the most, and setting boundaries in my relationships. And that is how I healed my thyroid issue. So, what you're talking about, taking your power back, every one of these things, every aspect of healing is a form of taking your power back, in my opinion.
Say that again. Every what aspect?
Every healing every one of those wounds that we, all these
healing
wounds.
The wound, yeah. But isn't the core then, though, to also recognize that you were never, you meaning spirit you, whole you, which you are even always, was never wounded. So the part of you that was never wounded is the part that's helping heal the part that is wounded.
Yes.
Right. It's that correction of the belief that something really happened. I mean, and I'm not minimizing the event. It did, but to recognize that it doesn't define you in any way, shape, or form, or limit you, because it's a part of you. It's not your essence. It's just a part of you. You
must be we must have such an aligned view, Tasha, or you must be so intuitive that you're practically teeing up everything that I want to express with your questions. And we did not, I swear to the audience here, we did not rehearse this. So what we've just literally met. And so what you just said is what the quantum field healing is. So when there is a unhealed part, or the view of an unhealed part within ourselves, within our psyche, I bring in that, I almost call it higher self healing, because I take that higher self and I bring that to the traumatic incident. And when we bring that there, we give to that child, inner child, whatever it didn't get. And when it gets what it didn't get from the higher self, from the adult who's not in this stressful situation, I've seen these miracles happen. Yeah. I've seen these miracles happen. So the other thing that happens is, and I'm sure you're knowledgeable about this, but I started having this where I learned this method to regress people to the incident. And then I did a number, I've integrated a number of techniques to bring that higher self in, to bring exactly what they needed. I started to have this phenomenon happen. First of all, where we would both feel like we were in a cloud. And that's why I called it quantum field healing, because we were both in this. When I regressed people very deeply, this energy started to descend through my crown. Yeah. And we would both be in this field. And it was like we were both in the same field. And this phenomenon started happening, which it freaked me out. Okay, it freaked me out. And this phenomenon was that people started having past life regressions. In the sessions, I would say, go back to where the incident began. And they would go and they'd start talking about this other life. Right. And I was not trained in past life regressions at the time. Yeah. So it just kept happening and happening. And so a lot of times we have brought with us karmically these patterns, and we have brought them be born into a family where we're going to activate that karmic pattern just so we have the opportunity to heal it in this lifetime. So it started to happen, and I just would have to go with it. I'd have to pretend during the session that it was supposed to happen, because it would freak me out. And these people are going and they're talking about this child in some village someplace. And this stuff's happening. And they would come out, and I assumed most of the time during the session that this person must be really familiar with past lives. They must have had past lives before. That's why they so easily went into it. And they would come out and ask me, was that a past life? I had no idea what just happened. Right. And I would go, you don't know? I don't know, Right. And so
that used to happen to me too. And what I did was add one word when I'd say to them, go back to the earliest time that in this lifetime. I started to add in this lifetime, because I knew, as cool as that is, it was about their family and what they had chosen to work on in this lifetime. At least that's where my expertise was as well. So yeah, I love that. That's so true. Because the field doesn't have space or time. I mean,
Exactly.
you just entered the field, or whatever you want to call that frequency, and there we all are, right?
Yeah.
So if you trust it, whatever arises will be brilliant if you're in that place and you're not in the mind zone, right?
100%. I agree. And that's why it's quantum field healing. Like, not only does this field start to generate itself when I regress someone now, which I don't even know how that happened. I was never trained in that. It just started coming through my crown, and then we'd both be in this field. But it felt like we had access to all past events that happened, including these past lives that are in their field. And we have access to the future they wanted to create.
Nice.
Right? We have access to, before we start the session, we go through this verbal part of it where we would talk about what they would want instead of this thing, right? And I'm able to take that, create that as an energetic reality that is just as real as that past life regression, that healing that they've had, where it's
right.
They're healing scoliosis pain, or they're healing their asthma, or they're healing, irritable bowel syndrome of 25 years in one or two sessions. We go back to that incident and they heal that. But I've already talked to them about this thing they'd rather have. And we bring that as palpably into their physical body and into their energy field and make that a reality that can be manifested.
The body doesn't know if you're imagining it or it's really happening. So to the body, you just saw yourself well, healthy, vibrant, whatever else you saw, and it's as if it's real. And the body will shift, physical body will shift to support that vision for sure.
Yeah, and the subconscious, I have a belief, when you shift the field, you shift the subconscious, you shift the patterns in your mind, you shift the way you think. It shifts all of that at one time.
Yeah.
And I think, therefore it shifts your vibration, and it makes it easier to manifest the things you do want. Yeah.
How long are your sessions usually when you work? You work one-on-one with people?
I do. They're usually about an hour. The first one I usually do an hour and a half, because I'm one of those people that it needs the time that it needs, especially when it's a past life. There's sometimes a lot of stuff they need to go through to wind up, and I'm just trying to, I'm here to help. I'm here to help people get well after I went through hell with all those diseases. I've walked through hell on this planet, and I literally made a commitment to myself a long time ago that so many people talk about manifesting great stuff. I'm here to help people out of hell. Like, I was in hell, and I can't stand to leave people in hell, because it is misery. It is misery. And all I want to do is help those people out. And your question was what again? It was
how long did this session?
So they're about an hour and a half, and I want there to be completion. And it takes about that long. Usually, most people are in their mind when we first start, so it takes at least a half an hour just to get that clarity of what they'd rather have and what they.
What's your favorite tool to help people connect with the field? And I think the field feels a little more neutral than the divine even, right? It's like, we're not labeling it. Like, I think it's pretty sacred, but it's a field. It's an energy that can be felt. So if we keep it wide open like that, what's your favorite tool or technique to support people to be able to really plug in and tap in?
That's a great question. I love the work of other healers, these great teachers we've talked about, Joe Dispenza and these other folks. I listen to a lot of their meditations. I think they're incredible. But my favorite one is actually group intention.
Oh gosh, we really are syncing up here, because I'm just working on a group intention meditation right now. Anyway, yes. Go ahead. Yeah.
So, knowing about Lynn McTaggart's work on group intention, and knowing about Joe Dispenza's work on group intention, and there's a lot of work on gratitude, I started doing these group sessions where what I create and what I'm going to do at the event, the mystical healing experience, my segment of, the many speakers that are there, my segment is to create a group intention field. And when we create this group intention field, I do it with gratitude. So I haven't done it yet with 250 people. I've only done it in groups of 8 or 10 or 12,
That's
just
gonna be
with
great.
some friends of mine or whatever,
Yeah.
and we'll do this group intention. And it's super powerful. If I just do it when I do it on my own, it's awesome. I think it's great. But when I do it with someone else, it's so palpable. The
It's
field is so
magnified.
palpable.
Yeah.
And the way I do that, and it's super easy, and I am literally going to try and spread this around the world because it's so simple and so easy, and it doesn't require much of anything, is, David Hawkins talks about vibrational levels. He says that this prayer position with the hands over the heart that people do namaste or pray in Christianity or what have you, he says that is at a 540, which is unconditional love. He says it's equivalent to unconditional love. And there's, most people think they're above it when they get on the scale. I don't think most people are at unconditional love. If you don't have unconditional love for everyone you meet, there's parts of your pattern that are not yet in unconditional love. You might have unconditional love for your dog or your children or your spouse. I don't know. So we do the mudra, and I believe our bodies are antennas, right? And so we're creating an antenna of gratitude. The field is already there. The possibility of gratitude is already there. The quantum field has all possibilities within it. This is the antenna saying, I want this frequency. How we used to change the rabbit ears on the TV?
Yeah.
Right? So you can get a different frequency. And when you literally change the channel on a non-digital radio, on a what do you call that? Not digital, but analog.
Analog.
When you change the dial on an analog, you're literally changing a part of the antenna that is able to capture the frequency. That's how you go from 99.9 to 99.9 to 101, is you're changing a physical thing in that radio. And so you're changing the antenna, you get a different frequency. So yogic poses to me, and when people go into kriyas and mudras, are antennas. So this is an antenna for gratitude, in my humble opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So, putting it in front of the heart, and then we start having, we start listing things that we're grateful for. And just through that, if I did it and you did it and Marc did it, we would create a field that you and Marc and I would all feel.
Yeah.
And it would be, after I read the research, I started doing this with now my ex-girlfriend, but at the time my girlfriend. And we were like, let's do gratitude. And Sunday nights we do gratitude. And we said, we have to do it for 5 minutes. And we started doing it for 5 minutes. And the energy becomes so delicious that the next week we did it for 10.
Yeah.
Then the next week we did it for 20. Then the next week we did it for an hour. And then the next week we did it for an hour and a half. And we didn't want to get out because the energy it's like heaven on earth.
Yeah.
So when I do this with groups, people don't want to leave. They want to stay right in that gorgeous energy. And it's amazing.
I think it's that recognition of home, like you're home. We're all home. We're all there. This is it. We're one here. And it's physical. It's so physical. Yeah. I love working with sound. That's for me, gratitude at the end of the day with sound. And I love using the senses. I love embodied meditation as opposed to leaving and tripping off in the ethers. I'll do that plenty when I'm in spirit form, but as long as I'm here in this body, I want to bring it in. And so the vibration of sound really supports having, to me, a deep experience of gratitude.
Absolutely. And that's very interesting that you talk about that. Music is one of the only things that, just like psychedelics, creates the whole brain lighting up. Yeah. It creates unity, feelings of unity. You go to a concert and you feel like you're one with everyone.
Yeah.
Right. And it creates feelings of unity.
Or not, because have you noticed in a mosh pit? I don't know if you're a mosh pit person, but have you noticed, maybe it's called something else now. Is it still called that?
You know me too well. You know me too well.
Okay. The vibe is so dependent on the artist. So when I go to a Michael Franti concert, It doesn't matter what age you are, who's beside you, biker on one side, who knows who on the other. The vibe is pure love, because that's the frequency his music is being offered at. And then you can go to see somebody else, or somebody who's on stage fighting, the band's not quite together, and you can feel that there's like a grumbliness in the crowd as they absorb this music. So I think it's totally, what's the word? It's like symbiotic or something, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Musicians are wizards, modern day wizards.
Gurus.
And they can create not so harmonic, or they can create this magic.
That's very true. Okay, so we need to start talking about the event, I think. I'm not sure what time it is, because I've lost my clock, and it's Sunday.
We have 19 minutes.
Okay, well,
That
let's
is more
do
than
that.
enough time. That's more than enough time.
And I just before you get
Yeah.
going, I just wanted to chime in there, because when you started talking about gratitude, Dan, it's just always that reminder, the world's been in such a tough place for so long, that a gratitude practice is so important, because we always, so many of us get caught up in, the everyday, that we forget what we are grateful for. And the one thing that can land us in that place is a gratitude practice. So I'm really glad that you brought that up. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I started that, and we have plenty of time, Tasha, just don't even stress it. But I started that gratitude practice, Mark, because I was having severe depression. And I read the research, and the research says not only will gratitude change your chemistry, your physiology, it improves your immune system. They did studies in over 6 weeks. It literally changes the structure of your brain. That's why I started my gratitude practice. In 2020, I made the New Year's resolution to do gratitude every single day. And I did it 365 days straight. And in 2021, I said, this is working for me. I'm going to keep doing it. And I might have missed 1 or 2 days in 2021. And I may have missed 1 day or 2 days in 2022, but I have done it almost every single day. And I did it every single day in 2020, including those sessions with my girlfriend at the time, where we did it for sometimes an hour to an hour and a half on Sunday nights. And it is life-changing. It's life-changing. I used to think all those spiritual teachers, Mary Morrissey talked about it, and Jack Canfield, and all those people, and I just say, oh, that's not going to manifest crap. And I have to say, I was wrong. It takes a practice. It's not something you can do one time. It's a practice.
Yeah.
Will shift you over time.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And I love that anybody can do it. Back to illness for a moment, or people who are struggling, or who are, probably the more low you feel, the more you need to be doing this, because there's always something to be grateful for. You ate that day. You have a home. There are people who don't have that. There's always something, and it will change your frequency and increase your ability to learn from, grow, and heal whatever it is that's going on. So I love that. I love that it's accessible, right? You don't need to be physically fit to do a gratitude practice.
We talked about letting go of suppressed emotions and adding more positive emotions. That was one of the 9 things, adding more positive emotions.
I'd even shift or add to that, if I may, that I don't see emotions as negative and positive. The meaning you make of the emotion can be negative or positive. You can think it's bad or good, but if you take the story out and you take the meaning out, and let's take even anger, what's the difference between anger and passion without a story? They feel almost the same. This overwhelming kind of feeling. It's without a story. They're the same texture, if you know what I mean.
So I have a question then about emotion, because, we feel what we feel, and that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
How much of emotion is actually learned and then become habitualized in a way by giving that feeling a word or a meaning?
Every single feeling you feel has a meaning attached. And if you don't know what that meaning is, it will create problems in your life. Sorry to butt right in there, but I'm real passionate about that. That's my jam. And as soon as you understand the meaning you're making, you can be with it. You can own it. You can be accountable. You don't have to be reactive. Wow, I'm feeling really angry. I'm making it mean that you are whatever, attacking me, or just like my dad did, or whatever it is. The point is, there's a very gentle way every feeling that I think you have has a meaning attached. I don't think you can turn your brain off.
Yeah. So then, so when you have that feeling, you make it a negative emotion or a negative feeling. That's basically the meaning we give it.
But why is it negative? Let's take sadness. Why is sadness negative? I'm making it mean I'll never.
That's a great question, and that's why I was asking the question. So is that a learned thing, that feeling that we call sadness, right,
Is bad?
Is bad?
Yes, I think that's our families, the world, everybody. We're all allergic to feelings. Nobody's really comfortable just going.
I like that.
Wow,
we're all allergic to feelings.
You're really angry. You're really sad. We all want to fix it. We want to make it better. We want to change it. Even in the service of helping, we're not relaxed in being with, wow, Mark, you're really sad right now. Or you're really like anger's, for me personally, tougher because my dad was a rageaholic. So being in the face of anger, it's tougher. But as long as I know the person's understanding that they're running an emotion and they're not attributing it to me, I'm okay with being with it. What do you think, Dan? Does this resonate for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think socialization is one of the aspects of creating illness, right? We have a different society in Western culture than indigenous societies all over the world. And when indigenous societies, they have different practices that allow different, expressions of whatever emotions are there. We're the ones that have this very, we've made science a god, and I love science, but we've made like this world that we're in, the capitalism, the culture, it's become kind of like gods to us. And there's hasn't been much place for emotional expression. And so we've been habituated into, stop crying. How many of us got told, stop crying? A child's crying, we go, stop crying, don't be mad. So now you're repressing all this stuff from the earliest age, and then it builds up over your whole life. And so, I do think that they become habituated. I think they become trapped.
Yeah.
And when they explode, it looks like it's real. So that's why, someone's coming to Tasha and they're angry, and she's like, hey, that's your anger, not me that's doing this. But it looks like it's real because it's so deeply ingrained in a person.
Yeah. Well, let's go to the event because we are going to end up running out of time. The mystical healing experience. I love your list of speakers. I really want to get into hearing more about each one of them. But the dates are April 23rd, 24th. I know you're having a live event in Tucson, but it's also going to be streamed online. So wherever you guys are listening right now, if you are in Vancouver or internationally, you can tune into this and enjoy these keynote speakers. What's the focus? You got a general focus of this one? Like most of your events have a kind of a theme. What's the theme of this one?
Yeah, I feel like we've been through this extremely difficult time worldwide, which everyone on this radio station will know that it was a giant spiritual awakening. And although it feels like there's all this negativity in the world, there's war, there's disease, there's all these problems, inflation, but I feel like what people are missing is the fact that the spiritual growth, the people owning their power, the manifestation and the synchronicity have also gone through the roof over the past couple of years. And we need to come together in a spiritual community to kind of capture the fact that that's happening. It feels like people are like out there, it's like, oh my God, they're just taking hit after hit. But when they go and they realize this is all about spiritual growth, and you have grown spiritually, and we have named it and come together in this, beautiful energy, everyone's going to realize that this is like one of the greatest things that's happened over these past couple of years.
I agree. So tell us about the speakers.
We need to name it. We need to call it out and capture it and make it real on the planet. So we obviously have Neil Donald Walsh, the author of Conversations with God and the whole series. We've got Shaman Durek, who is a sixth generation African shaman. We've got a number of other speakers, but those are the two headliners. If I'm sure that most of the people have heard of the book Conversations with God, if they haven't read it, or the whole series. Neil, that book was on the New York Times bestseller list for 2.5 years. And it changed, I think, planetary consciousness. It sold many millions of copies in 30 languages around the world.
I mean, the amazing thing, I remember when I read it, I went, oh my God, this is so normal. God was normal. God was someone like he just basically talked to her, and it was just, and had a sense of humor. That was the other part. God had a sense of humor. It's like, who knew? So his dialogue, his modeling of that dialogue was both entertaining, but also revelatory, where you went, everyone can do this. This is not just special people. This is all of us can tap in. And that's profound. That changes your life when you experience that. And I understand they'll get a little taste of that when Neil is speaking. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so his latest book is The God Solution. And he's taken basically a lot of the teachings through the Conversations with God series, and he's turned them into metaphysical practices, less about the teaching and more about implementing it into your life and making your life work and partnering with God. I love the fact that in Conversations with God, he talks about sex, he talks about money as not being these bad things. And it's super liberating to that perspective.
To normalize it. It's like, it's funny and it's normal. Yeah. So who else?
Shaman Durek. Okay, this guy is so interesting. He's on the TV show The Doctors, which is on CBS. He's a regular guest there. He's a 6th generation African shaman. He was trained since he was very young to be a shaman. Then he had a near-death experience in his late 20s, and he's been a shaman ever since. His claim to fame is that he's Gwyneth Paltrow's healer. He is, she's the founder of Goop, obviously an Academy Award-winning actress of many, many films. He's also a healer for many billionaires and royal families around the world. So somehow he's been doing these healings. He's doing stuff that I literally have not seen. And I've been doing these events for 12 years, and I've been going to other people's events, Van Prague and Deepak and all these, and he's doing stuff that I've never seen before.
Like what?
So one of the things he's going to teach us at the event is how to shift your energy instantaneously. And he literally did this practice with me, and I could feel my whole field clearing. And it only took about a half a minute to clear my whole field.
Nice.
and feel like weight had lifted from my being. He's like, he believes that we are in what's called the matrix. And he's talking about like an energetic and thought field matrix. And he wrote a book in 2019, and he said, we're going to enter the blackout period very soon. The blackout. He wrote this in 2019 before COVID, and then 2020 COVID hits, and now he looks like he's a genius, right? He wrote this book about the blackout period. He said, this is the blackout period. And the blackout period is where we're coming out of the matrix. We're getting out of that energetic consciousness. And he's like, in the new world, it's going to be topsy-turvy. We have to trust our intuition to make decisions, and we got to be able to shift our energy instantaneously. That's how we're going to thrive in the coming days.
Okay, so far we're going to be connected with the field. Neil's going to teach us how to dive into that and feel like we can get all our own answers, and then share. Shaman Derek has got some hacks for us, some quick, fast shamanic hacks that'll change everything. 2 other amazing people that are coming. We have Christy Whitman and Dr. Hamal Patel. Dr. Hamal Patel is Joe Dispenza's lead researcher. He's leading a team of 9 PhDs that are doing research on Dr. Joe Dispenza's work. He's at UC San Diego. Cool. He's not some fringe scientist. He's a mainstream, well-regarded, done tons of research at UC San Diego. He was the head of research of one of his departments at one of the schools he taught at. I can't remember, but he was the head of research. And he found out about Dr. Joe's work. He's been doing this research, and it's literally groundbreaking. It's history making, and he's going to reveal what that groundbreaking research is that he's been doing. Because he has this perfect study where he goes to the retreats. He's able to put EEGs on people's brains and take their saliva and take their blood and test their brain waves and test their stool and see the changes physiologically of what happened in 7 days of meditation. And so they've come out with some really groundbreaking work that I think is going to make scientific history.
We've got Christy Whitman. Christy Whitman's thing is, okay, she is a New York Times bestselling author 2 times over. She's in the Transformational Leadership Council with all the people from The Secret. And she was going for years. She's done $1 million a year for many, many years in her business. She was on Lisa Nichols stages. And she was going around for years paying for private retreats and private sessions with Abraham Hicks, with Esther Hicks.
Yeah.
And she was going to Oren and DeBen, and she was going to Theo, and she was going to all these channels, getting the information. And she said the frustrating part was they would tell you the information, but they wouldn't help you shift the energy that would help you create the manifestation. That was her frustration. So she was going years and years and years. And then she started channeling. And I think she's the next level of channel, because when she channels, the beings, the council of light that she channels, it not only gives you the information, but it shifts the energy. So it's like an energy healing and a channeling at the same time.
Cool.
She did a session with me, and I was in this bubble of peace for 2 days before that session, and then 2 days after that session. And during the session, I asked her, was that bubble that I've been experiencing the past 2 days? I was like, was that the council? She's like, that happens a lot. And, every healer always takes credit. And I was like, no, I've reached a new level of consciousness. I'm just in this super peaceful state. That's why I had it. Then 2 days later, after her session, it went away. And I was like, okay, I have to admit, it was 2 days before, 2 days after.
And you know what's amazing about this is, like, people who are listening right now thinking, yeah, okay, that's great, but I won't be there in Tucson. This will happen online, right? The beauty, and Marc, you can speak to this because I know you've done a whole lot of online events. I did one as well during COVID that was so intense because it doesn't matter. The frequency, the field it doesn't matter. It comes through. You could be sitting at home in your jammies, part of this for 2 days, and being blown open, right, with these transmissions as you learn all this incredible information.
Well, and what I want to say to the live streams and online is there's one simple key in order to make it work. And that's just to be open. If you're like, oh, this is online, this sucks, it's terrible, right, then it's not going to happen. It's not going to convey in the same way. But when you open and become receptive to it, it's transferring energy. Reiki heals long distance. Energy healing works long distance. We're able to do this from Bridal Falls to Vancouver to Tucson while we're broadcasting today over the internet. I like to call it, when we do this work online, we use the internet. It's kind of corny, but true.
And Christy works with all of her clients online. And
right,
my gratitude field, that's the part that I'm going to be doing. We're going to create a 250 person gratitude field, plus whoever's online with us. And they're going to feel that. I've done that only online with large groups. Actually, I've done it with 8 people in person, and I've done it with like 12 online, and it works either way. So I'll be doing the gratitude field. We've got Ken Stone. He's an incredible healer. He brings in your soul. And I ugly cried 4 times in one day during Ken's 1-day online Zoom workshop. Okay. I ugly cried 4 times, and I was like, I need to bring this guy. And
we're going to interview him too, right, in a week or so.
We hope so. He's got a very busy schedule lately. And then, gosh, who is the last person? Shaman Durek.
Rob
Wergen from the movie Heal. How can I forget him? So he's super famous, actually. He's on the movie Heal that was on Netflix. It's on Amazon Prime. And that movie's a phenomenon. Hay House promoted it. And he just brings in divine light. So he's going to do a healing for us. And
here's what I've never heard before at an event. You're saying it's a money back guarantee. I saw that and I went, what? Like, who does that? So tell us what inspired you to do that. You're so sure that people are going to get impacted.
It's impossible. So the agreement is, if you show up on time on the first morning, and you go to all the sessions, you don't skip anyone, and then you make it all the way to Sunday night or Sunday afternoon, you will have an incredible experience. And I know that it's true because I've done it before in the past. And I've never had anyone take me up on it. Not a single person has said to me, I didn't have a great experience. And because the fact of the matter is, I test all these people out before I go to them. I feel like every single one is worth the price of admission on their own. Just seeing Shaman Durek and what he's going to do to shift you is worth the price. Just seeing Neil is worth it. What Christy does, she's doing next level channeling, the gratitude field, all those things I think are worth it on their own.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it's impossible. And if there's one or two people, God bless them, if they didn't get anything, I don't want their money. I want them to have their money back and go find something that works for them.
I love it. And it's super reasonable too. I mean, that's the other thing here, online, super reasonable. And don't we have a code as well? If people are listening right now and there's an early bird price, but also a code for them if you're a Conscious Living Radio listener. To tell us about that, Marc.
Well, we have a code, CLR, gives you 20% discount if you go to the Mystical Healing website directly, as well as through our website. We have a little magic link that automatically gives you 20% discount. And it's just our way of giving back to our community for tuning in, because we know so many people of our community is semi-local here in British Columbia. However, that being said, it's growing and growing all the time. People are traveling, and you can always join online. And it makes it a really reasonable experience, like $80 to attend this for the weekend, which is fantastic.
That's nothing for 2 days. Let's go over the time. It's
I think
Sunday.
it's a little more than that, but yes, 20% off with Conscious Living, CLR, Conscious Living Radio. And I'm grateful to your audience for being here, and I'm grateful to have them. So
we're grateful to offer it to people, because it just sounds like such a blast. And I'd like to be there. You going, Marc? Are you attending?
Well, I think we'll both be there.
So the dates again, Saturday, April 23rd, and it starts at?
It'll start at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time and end at
Pacific. Yeah.
It's, my events are not 100% guaranteed. We're going to end at 5:30. They're probably 5:45 or 6. Just depending if one of the speakers gets on a hot streak where they're like channeling divine brilliance, I don't stop them.
Yeah. Okay. And it goes till Sunday, about 6 p.m. or so.
Yeah, not 9:30 to about 5:36 on Sunday as well. And we'll take a very long lunch break, about an hour and a half. We'll take 15-minute breaks in between each speaker. And so there's no breakout rooms or anything. It's just one lineup, and mysticalhealingexperience.com. And yeah, it's the last thing I'll say is these events come to me. People think that I know what I'm creating. I'm creating them. I'm not creating them. They show me what they want, and I just facilitate. Everyone I asked to do this event, I was shocked. Every single person said yes. Shocked. I was like, well, Neil won't say yes. It's COVID. He said yes. Then Shaman Durek, he's Gwyneth Paltrow's. He's not going to say yes. He said yes. Rob's not going to say yes. Rob doesn't even remember me. I went to his workshop 2 years ago and before COVID. He remembered me. He was like, oh, let's do it. Everyone said yes. And Chrissy Whitman, she's a 2-time New York Times bestseller. We've never met before. And I said, will you come? She said yes. It was shocking.
It's the shift in frequency you're talking about, because it's happening. The synchronicity has been blowing me away too. It's happening everywhere. And so it sounds like the event itself, like when we were talking about this last little bit, I was getting shivers. And that says something.
Let's shiver that into next week, because we're running out of time.
Oh, see, now we are.
Beginning and end on and everything else.
Okay, the Mystical Healing Experience. Find it online. We've been speaking with Dan Horner. Thank you so much for joining us. And
honored to be here.
I'll see you on the 23rd and 24th of April.
Sending blessings to you and your audience.
Thanks, you. Dan. Thanks everyone for joining us.
All right, give us our call letters, Tasha.
Conscious Living Radio, 100.5 FM. Was that a trick question?